Hello,
Hello,
I'm Mark Ramos.
and I'm Mary Eileen Indelicato, and we're here to present our Hello device.
We're going to start off with a product introduction, and then we're going to talk a little bit about user testing and some of our target user personas. Then we'll play a video that walks you through the physical prototype and some videos that walk you through our digital prototype before and after the user testing. And then we'll conclude with some takeaways. So the idea of this product comes from the concept of, have you ever forgotten someone's name? Names are actually typically meaningless labels, and they tend to not hold any relevant information about the person to whom they refer. They also consist of unique sounds, and similar names may refer to people with similar traits. And all those things make names particularly difficult for us to remember. So that's sort of what inspired this idea and this product. So Hello is a product intended to assist the user in recalling a person's name as well as some other information. It's similar to the name tags you might wear at a conference or exchanging of a business card. So Hello was envisioned to be a wearable device similar to a body camera, with a camera for picking up images and a microphone for picking up audio. The idea was also that it would be supported by a mobile application running on a smartphone and or a smartwatch. This is an operational concept diagram of what we envisioned our system to look like. So it consisted of the smartphone, a watch, which is that little brown diagram there. The Hello product is what you see up top here. This is actually showing two Hello products. The idea was that they could interact with each other and exchange information based on user input, as well as a cloud service that would interact with the mobile device or internet device for processing and data storage. So as far as looking at similar things within the market, something that's similar is body cameras. One thing that we discovered, body cameras currently don't do a lot of processing other than just recording the video. They currently don't do a lot of voice recognition or image recognition processing like we envisioned our Hello product to do. Smartphones are probably the closest thing to this idea. They have both a camera and a microphone and enough processing power to do this type of application, but they're not really practical to kind of hold up in the middle of a conversation to try to capture up someone's images. There's actually a product in the early 2000s called NTag, and the idea was similar to this in that it was this device that you wore at a conference, and it displayed information that you programmed into it about yourself so that you could start conversations with a person. I think it also allowed you to share wirelessly information with the other person. And finally, Google Glass probably holds the most potential for this type of application. And at one time there was an app proposed called Name Tag that did exactly this, but Google Glass never made it to the consumer market yet. The Name Tag application, those developers never really made that app. So that's where Hello comes in. So for constraints and concerns, physical dimensions are a big concern because someone needs to wear this device. So size and weight need to be considered for something that would be wearable. Our initial targets were looking at something the size of a typical smartphone, which is around 5 ounces. But through user testing with weight, we discovered that was probably a little too heavy. There's also legal concerns with this type of thing, concerns with violating any privacy laws. As far as we can tell, that varies depending on state, and it varies depending on what you do with the information too. And then security concerns. We envisioned our device to interchange data with another device, so there's concerns over other people intercepting your data. So these are all things we have to consider. Now I'll hand it over to Mary Eileen to talk about user testing.
So for user testing, there were several components we had to prepare before starting our user testing. First part was to identify our primary and secondary user personas, which we will present a few slides from now. We had to design and develop our digital prototypes. Originally, we developed the digital prototypes for both the cell phone and for the PC applications, but we elected to just concentrate right now on the mobile device. We also had to design and manufacture a physical prototype, which will be introduced soon. We use 3D printing for our physical prototype. We had to create a test script along with a set of tasks for both the physical and the digital prototypes. We had them separated so some of our testers was present just for the physical testing, where others would participate in both. Then we performed the actual testing with 7 different users. Most of our users fell within the primary user personas that we had identified, and most of them were engineers, but we did have a few that were not engineers. Finally, we analyzed the test results, then the observations, and developed an initial version of both the physical and digital prototype. Our test user primary personas was would be a conference attendee looking to meet new people, to establish business relationships with them and to make a good impression. Our primary personas would have the frustration of meeting an acquaintance but could not recall their name, and also could not recall key elements about the people that they met. Our secondary persona would be also a conference attendee, but on the other side. They would be looking for a job or looking to meet new people, and their frustration is when people could not recall her name or would having to repeat herself. So this is the user testing on the physical component. Our physical component started off the size of a cell phone, which was 3 inches by 5 inches. It had, we also had divots in the back for our weights. This is it fully loaded. Each weight is 20 grams, and a fully weighted device was 160 grams. And then we also, at the same time, tried several different fasteners. This is a video I made walking through the prototype.
Hello, I'm here to present the physical prototypes that Mark and I have developed and designed. We came up with the concept of the Hello device to be about the size of a cell phone. We had come up with both a horizontal and a vertical orientation. Both devices had a on-off power switch, a single lanyard slot, the the camera, and the mic. And on the bottom there was a USB port. In addition, to facilitate testing of the weight, we had added to the back 8 slots to hold 20-gram weights. And we would start off with 160 grams and work our way down to 20. In addition, we were also testing out several fasteners. We have the lanyard, we have a bar pin, a lapel pin, several types of bullnose clips, a magnetic fastener, and the military pin fastener. The results of the study showed us that our users would prefer a smaller device, a lighter weight device, a means to prevent the device from rotating, have LEDs for the battery status and an LED for communication, and to move the USB ports so that the device could be placed in a standing position. The users also preferred the vertical orientation of the device. To address the issues from that were raised during testing, we've developed a beta prototype for our physical device. The physical device is now a credit card size. We still have the same camera and mic and power switch, but now we added 2 lanyard slots to prevent the rotation of the device. We moved the USB port to the side. And along the top edge, you really can't tell, but there is 4 single color LEDs on the right edge for the battery status, and a multicolor LED on the left side to indicate when it's communicating with either another device or with the web. It was put along the top edge so the user could just glance down and tell the status of the device without anyone else being aware of it. Thank you. I'm here.
Now, on the other side of that was the digital prototype. So our digital prototypes, we initially created one for the smartphone and for the smartwatch, as well as a website interface. We did the smartwatch and the smartphone in an application called Fluid UI, and the digital prototype for the web application was done in a similar wireframing application called Envision App. The primary focus, because the web application and the smartphone application were very similar, we primarily focused all our user testing on the smartphone application. Below are some images of the smartphone interface as well as the smartwatch interface on the far right. Oops. Now we're going to walk you through what our prototype looked like before we made modifications to it. So this is our initial prototype prior that we used for user testing.
The following video shows an interaction using the Fluid UI wireframing tool, which enables you to test out your wireframe prototype actually on your device. So here's my iPhone 6s running the Fluid UI prototype. And kind of show you the interactions you can do with the prototype. The first thing would be to sign in. Our first screen, we get a list of our recent contacts that have been picked up with our Hello device. At the bottom, I have simple menu commands to see my contacts. So here you get a list of all contacts that I've collected with the Hello device and stored. Similar look and feel to iPhone's built-in contact list. I also have a settings screen. Click on it. Oh, actually I gotta get back to the home. I only programmed that interaction from the home screen. Go back to the home screen, I can choose the settings. So here's the settings screen. I mimicked some of the screens that you'd see on an iPhone. So you get general, social media would be so you can provide access to your LinkedIn data or Facebook data, so you can share that type of information. You can add contact information. You can turn on whether the device camera is active or microphone's active, or whether you want to enable data sharing with other Hello device users. So just to follow, I don't have every interaction programmed into this, but just to follow a simple interaction, if I was at the Hello screen and I had just met this contact, Joan Smith, I could click on her name, I get her contact details. It tells me when I first contacted her, last time I contacted her, I assume that I've met this person at several conferences. Here's some basic information that I've configured for her. I obviously don't have anything displayed here for demonstration purposes, but this would contain information that I've collected or that she shared with me. I can go multiple screens with this data, including some notes I could have taken. The intent is that the user would be able to configure what data they see here. This, by the way, is also the screen that if I were to be using the device and I had gotten an alert that the device was able to recognize a contact I was interacting with, and it would send me a notification on my phone. And when I click on the notification, it would bring me to this screen, so I can quickly sort of glance at what the person's name is and get some of their relevant information. The system also lets me see a recorded history of interactions with this person. I can choose to look at all photos collected. I can choose to let me go click the X button up here to get back. I can choose to review all audio recordings. So this would be as I'm interacting with the person, the device is recording their audio at various interaction points. This shows the time of interaction. This down here would be an amalgamated recording of all the audio that I could play. Or, so I'm sorry, this screen is right here is the selected audio. So that would be technically playing this audio clip. Click the X up here and back. I could also choose to see the groupings by event. So in this case, I've met this person 3 times with my device. Maybe I want to see the latest one, which is this one, Worcester. Here would be, in theory, all the images that the device took. You know, technically, it could scroll up and down to see additional images using typical swipe motions. This would be an amalgamated audio recording of all the audio interactions picked up during this meeting on 319, or all the time they interacted with this person on 319. And then you can, from any screen, you can hit the home button to get back to the main screen here. So that is the mobile, the anticipated kind of high-level mobile interface to the Hello device. And a lot of these screens, like some of the in-depth settings, have not been created. But the main thing we're trying to get feedback on when we go through user testing is, does this provide good information? Is it glanceable? Is it usable for what the purpose of the Hello device system is? Not necessarily looking at, you know, what screens, what features I can edit, but that would be something that you would definitely prototype, probably at a later
point. So following user testing, we made quite a few updates to. We got good feedback. We made a few updates to our digital prototype. So this will talk about some of those differences. So based on the user testing, we revised our prototype. So I'm just going to highlight the areas of the prototype that we modified. So one area that users provided feedback on was this initial landing screen. The intent was it was to show recent contacts made with the Hello device, and users were confused by, you know, what this actually meant, recent contacts and the date. So they sort of provided feedback that they would prefer to see just all the contacts, perhaps sorted by the date of the last meeting. And they also provided feedback that it might be useful to see the actual events and the number of contacts established at each event. So taking that feedback, we went ahead and modified the landing screen, so now it shows a list of all users. Theoretically, this would be scrollable. It shows the date that the first contact was established with that user, or that contact, as well as a listing sorted by date of the last contact made, the last meeting date made, and where it was. We also added this menu filter here, so you know, users could choose to see it by first meeting or last meeting, or see it in location groups. So now this is just sorted by the location groups with the date, location, and a number indicating how many contacts were established within that group. And theoretically, you click on that, it would bring up a screen that just showed those contacts. And And you could extend this filter system if you wanted to add more filtering options for the users. Another area that people provided feedback on was modification of the user's own profile card. So originally, in the original prototype, that was achieved by clicking on your card, and then you could go to edit and you could make changes. Every user. Now this is modeled off an iPhone. This is how you access the same menu in an iPhone. Most users actually didn't, or actually I don't think any of the users found their way through that mechanism. Everybody tried to go through to the settings menu to try to modify their own profile. So we added that ability here. So now you can go to settings and you can click on my profile to start editing your own profile. You can still get there through the previous means to go into your contact and selecting edit. Something we noticed that was missing from the original prototype, users didn't actually pick this up, but we noticed that we didn't actually have a way to delete a contact. So we added this mechanism so you can go in and theoretically actually delete a contact. And yes, you can delete your own contact. This is actually modeled off the iPhone, which also provides the ability to delete your own contact if you want to. We also provide the ability to just demonstrate how you would go about editing the contact. So in this case, if you were in the edit screen, you select the field you want to edit. I would have typed it in, maybe hit enter. Now the save button would appear only if I've made a change, whereas in the original prototype the save button appeared regardless if you made a change or not, so there was no way to notify the user that something had been modified. So now that only appears if a change has been made. The other piece of feedback we got from users was when you did hit the save, so if I hit the save on the original prototype, I don't have any feedback that it actually did anything. Now when I hit save, I get a little message, temporary message that indicates what it's doing. Users also did not like, in the previous prototype, they did not like this X as a way to cancel or exit out of a screen. They thought a back button or maybe a done button would be a more appropriate way to exit out. So we made that modification here too. So now we replaced the X with a button that clearly says done. Something else to share information with other users. The original prototype didn't address sharing information or selecting what information got shared with additional users. Now we have the ability that you can choose what information you might want to share by default through these switches. I'll show you what the sharing screens that we added look like now. So now if I go ahead and do a sharing request, so if I was at a conference and another user had this device and they requested with me to share information, like you might do if you were trying to exchange business cards, now you would get a notification on your phone like this that a share request was made. You could maybe get a screen like this. You could choose to reject the request, or at this point, this would theoretically be filled in with the default share parameters that you've selected, and then you can choose whether or not to add more parameters if you wish, and share. The same thing as with the saving menu. We added some sort of feedback to let the user know that the sharing, their sharing activity was occurring. Another place where we provided feedback, or we were given feedback. Just a second here. Was on the notifications. So if I get a notification right now in the original prototype, I just showed two pieces of information that were fixed pieces of information. Users indicated that they would like maybe up to 3 pieces of information that they could customize. So with the new prototype, we added so a couple fields that they could theoretically, customize and show the information that they're interested in, which could be, it could be the business that the person works at, or it could be their email address, it could be some other piece of information about them. And the final change that we made, just get through this, is on the history, the way that the history is initially shown. So in the original prototype, when you clicked on history, you're provided this screen, which let you kind of select whether you wanted to see history grouped by event, or all the photos for that particular contact, or all the audio for that particular contact. Users didn't like that they had to go through this layer of interaction to get to the history data. So instead, based on that feedback, we just bring them to the landing screen that has all the information about that person, and they can cycle through, using these little arrows, the events that contain data on that person. So this would be all the data for that contact. From this particular meeting, we met this contact 3 times in this scenario. There's another meeting on a different date, a different location, all the audio and video collected for that user on that day. And we also added this menu that would then would bring you back to the original landing screen, which would still provide the function that if you just want to see all photos from all meetings, or all audio, or filter by event, you can still do that here. And taking the feedback about getting rid of the X's, which were on the original screen. The original screen had these X's to kind of cancel out and go back. We added a back button, so they just get back to where they were. And those are the primary changes based on the feedback we received from user testing. So just a couple takeaways now that from this whole project. So most users thought it was an interesting idea. Primary feedback was centered around the size and the ability to do customization, like customize the data views in the mobile application, like what you could share, what information you received during notifications. Some users are concerned about privacy, especially with the idea of sharing information wirelessly with another device. And some users had social concerns, such as appearing rude when checking notifications. So if they were interacting with somebody with this, they had a notification, they didn't want to have to pull out their phone to look at it or look at their smartwatch. So some users actually provided feedback that perhaps an earpiece or something that could more discreetly provide them information might be useful. So overall takeaway from all this, we think that the concept is viable, but it would probably need to be part of a device that offers more than just recognition services. So, something like the Google Glass, if like the name tag application would probably be a good fit for this type of idea. And that concludes our presentation on the Hello product device.